The Camino de Santiago, or Way of St. James, is a series of pilgrimage routes from across Europe that make their way to the city of Santiago de Compostela in northwest Spain. Legend has it that the remains of the Apostle St. James the Great were buried here and discovered by a shepherd in the 9th century, and Santiago became and remains a very important pilgrimage site. There are many different routes that pilgrims can take to get to Santiago. The Camino Frances, whilst not the oldest, has been the most popular and well known since the Middle Ages, and today attracts approximately 55% of all pilgrims. This was the route that I took, starting in the French town of Saint-Jean-Pied-de-Port and walking the 800 kilometres to Santiago de Compostela. This is a video of that journey. So this is day one of the Camino, just leaving our hostel, which is the building there on the right, and just about to leave Saint-Jean-Pied-de-Port. So on day one, I walked 24 kilometres. I only have 790 left to go. Monument to the running of the bulls in Pamplona. You don't want to be him. And there is no doubt about the gender of the bulls. It's Sunday, and I thought I'd just check in and give an update on how the Camino is going. So it's exactly a week ago since we left Carlisle, and we flew out on the Monday, and we began the walk with Paul and Julie on Tuesday. So we've actually now walked 5 days of the Camino. We've walked about 115 kilometers. The first day was over the Pyrenees. It was very wet, wasn't particularly nice weather conditions, and the second day was also very wet, so we're very grateful for the waterproofs. But as you can see right now, the sun has come out and it's actually become very hot. It's about 27 degrees today, and it's going to get hotter in the coming days. The walk is lovely. It's beautiful scenery that we're passing through, but I have really struggled with my feet. I've developed blisters, and walking has been very painful. I'm hoping that they're going to start healing, so we've actually got a rest day. A lot of people would go on further, but we're having a rest day today in this rather nice little town called Estella. But then I've got, or planning to do, 7 days of walking with some really long distances to do over those next 7 days. So I'm hoping my feet will hold up. The lesson I've learnt is that the shoes I bought were not the right shoes. I brought waterproof shoes. I thought they were going to be more breathable than they are, and they're not, and my feet are sweating in them, and I think that's part of the problem why I've developed these blisters. So that's an annoying mistake. I am wondering about whether to wear my sandals, but again, my sandals are not ideal for walking in. So yes, finding accommodation has not been too difficult. We are tending to book ahead, so that we know that we've got somewhere to stay, because the last thing you want at the end of a day when you're feeling very tired is to then spend hours looking for accommodation. But the accommodation has been good. It's simple, but that's absolutely fine. And one thing I'm finding is that snoring no longer irritates me. I think you just get so exhausted at the end of the day that you're just grateful for a bed and you just go to sleep. The other thing I've discovered is that you need to get up early to walk. So the plan tomorrow is to get up, or to leave, around 5:30 in the morning. The reason for that is we want to do most of the walking in the cool of the day, aiming to get to our destination about midday, 1 o'clock at the latest, because it just gets too hot after that. So going to bed early and getting up early is the plan of action. So yes, this is a week into the Camino. Paul and Julie are with me for 3 more days, and then they're heading off to the latter stage, and I'll be on my own. I have mixed feelings about that. It's been really great having them with me. I'm going to miss them. I'm going to miss having their company and their support. But I think when you're by yourself, you're more likely to engage and chat to other pilgrims who are on their own. There's quite a lot of people who seem to be doing this by themselves. So I hope I'll have opportunities to get to know other pilgrims, chat to them a bit, and see how it goes for the next 4 weeks still to go to reach Santiago. So I think there's going to be some really tough days ahead. This is not as easy as maybe I thought it would be, particularly obviously with the feet situation. That's not been good. But yeah, positive first week despite some challenges. It's Monday the 30th of May, and we made a very early start this morning. We were up just before 5 o'clock, left the hostel at 5:30, and I've been walking about an hour and a half now. Getting up really early is lovely. It's very cool, wonderful conditions in which to walk in, but also the path is very quiet. There's hardly anyone else on it. Just been chatting to some Koreans, but we've left them behind, and we're walking through this most beautiful scenic countryside at the moment, forests and rolling mountains. It really is a beautiful part of Spain. So got 21.5 kilometers to go today, so hopefully be at our destination around midday, 1 o'clock. Buongiorno. thought I'd just show you what the sleeping arrangements look like in a typical pilgrim's hostel on the Camino. So this here is a room that sleeps 13 people. It's all very simple, bunk beds, place to store stuff. There's a communal room downstairs. So it's all very simple, nothing very grand. And we're spending 12 euros tonight, 12 euros to stay here. I'll just show you into our room. So our room is in here. There you go, lovely pink decoration. So there's my bed on the top. There's 4 of us sleeping in here, potentially. And then in this room, we've got 5 more beds. And often what they do when you arrive is they give you these paper sheets, so you cover the mattress and the pillow with them just for hygiene purposes. So yeah, this is what a pilgrim hostel looks like. It's Wednesday the 1st of June. I'm just leaving Longrono, or I've been on the go for at least an hour, and I'm now travelling by myself. I said goodbye to Paul and Julie last night, and they're getting on a train to Madrid and then to Syria, where they're going to do the final 100 kilometres of the Camino. So in some ways maybe this feels like the start of my own sabbatical and my own Camino. It's a very different experience travelling by myself. So far I haven't seen that many people, just seen a couple ahead of me. I'm going slower than I have been in previous days because my feet are hurting me. I've got big blisters and they're just not healing very well, so going at a slower pace. And I've got about 30 kilometres, over 30 kilometres to do today, so it's a long walk. Left at 5:15, so earliest start today, but it took quite a while to get through the town, through the city, to pick up the trails. So I'll see how I get on today. So yeah, I think this is day 8 of the walking the Camino. Anyway, I'll let you know how I get on. Wait. So it's 9:20 AM. It's already incredibly hot, walking through vineyards, and there's very little shade, and temperature could be hitting 34 degrees today, so it's going to be a long hot walk. I probably still have at least 3 hours to go. Changed out of my shoes and wearing sandals with socks just to try and get a bit more air to my feet. But now walking through the Rioja region, famous obviously for its wine. Hi, it's Thursday the 2nd of June. It should have been day 9 of my Camino walk, but instead I find myself in a place which is called Najera, and this is my second day here. I arrived here yesterday. I got here yesterday early afternoon, and my feet were causing me so much pain, and they weren't looking good, and in fact the blisters seemed to be spreading. So I thought I should do something about it. I spent part of the afternoon trying to find a podiatrist to see if they could take a look at my feet. When I did eventually find one, she just wasn't interested, just sent me away. And I ended up going to the local hospital. There's a bit of a faff over that, but eventually they did see me. And when they took off the Compede plasters and looked at my blisters, I think even they were shocked. The blisters are pretty terrible. They're very large, so they've removed the dead skin. They put a bandage on it, and they've given me sort of medication and instructions on how to look after my feet. So today is a rest day. I'm not doing anything, not going anywhere. I'll be honest, I feel pretty low. I didn't imagine I would get blisters. I didn't imagine it would affect my walk. But my real concern is I genuinely don't know if I will be able to carry on with the Camino. They said 2 or 3 days rest, I may be okay, but I'll be honest, my feet are in such a state, I'm not convinced. So I have to make a decision. I've got 2 nights here in this place, so another night here, and then a decision about what to do. Do I stay locally, try and find somewhere else, maybe a bit more private, to rest and to see how my feet are? Do I jump on a bus and go to what would be my next destination and hop along the route that way? It's not what I want to do. The other thing is, you know, if the feet don't properly heal and I start walking on them again or walking in new shoes, is that just going to cause further problems? So I'm in this situation now where I simply don't know what to do, and I'm pretty fed up. I'm pretty down about it, if I'm honest. You know, I've been looking forward to doing the Camino for such a long time, and I didn't expect to have to be wrestling with the problems of blisters. And physically, the distance of the walking, that's not an issue for me. That's fine. I can do that. I enjoy doing that. It's just that I've developed these almighty blisters, and they're not healing. So I really don't know what to do. Potentially, I might have to call an end to the Camino and go home much earlier than planned, and that then also raises the question, well, what do I do with the rest of my sabbatical? So yeah, I honestly don't know. I spent a couple of hours on the phone today just trying to sort out payments as well, because I had to pay for the hospital treatment, so I had to phone the bank to sort all that. So it's yeah, and I'll have to probably go out at some point, try and find some food, but again, just not feeling motivated to do anything really. So that's my day. So I'm just hoping things will improve. I'm hoping my feet will improve, and I'm hoping that I will be able to continue with the Camino. I was determined not to use public transport, but given the situation I'm in, maybe I have no other option, at least for a day or two. But looking at my feet, I'm just not that positive that they will heal properly in time. So we will see. Hi, it's Friday the 3rd of June, and I'm still in Najera. I've been here 2 nights now, and I'm actually going to be spending 2 more nights here in this town. I've booked myself into an Airbnb, so I'm out of the hostel, and this is just really to give my feet more time to heal. So my hope is that on Sunday, when I plan to leave, I'll be able to continue my Camino to Santiago. It does put me back a few days, but I'm hoping I can still reach Santiago by the end of June. That's my aim. And hopefully I can do the whole route without having to skip sections by bus, but we'll see what happens. So anyway, I've booked myself into this little apartment. It's owned by 2 sisters, and I thought I'd just show you. So if I just turn the camera around. So it's a small apartment. There's Got a bathroom in there, which is lovely. Little kitchen area for cooking, fridge, freezer, table, and over here 2 single beds. And then out here, you won't see it because of the trees, but there is actually a rather large garden out there, so that'd be nice to sit in. And then I have my own little private balcony. So here we are, and the municipal swimming pool's right across the road, and I'm actually on the 3rd floor. You can look down to the neighbour's garden there, rather lovely. So this is where I'm going to be spending the next 2 days, and really the plan is to do very little. I'm going to head into the town, to the shops. I'm going to get some food, cook myself something to eat, and then just put my feet up and hopefully let the healing process work, so that when I set off on Sunday, my major blisters will be much better and I'll be able to continue the Camino, I hope, God willing, without any major further setbacks. So it's not been part of the plan. It's been quite frustrating. I must admit, yesterday wasn't an easy day for me. I spent ages just looking at the various different options. But if by giving time to rest allows my feet to heal and allows me to complete the Camino, then hopefully it's worth it. It's difficult when you see other pilgrims arrive and disappear. It's one of the reasons why I've put myself into an Airbnb. Partly it's quieter, but also when you're seeing people getting up and continuing their journey, when you feel you should be doing the same, it's not easy. So yeah, we'll see how the next couple of days go, but now off to town to get some food. Good morning everyone. It is Pentecost Sunday, the 5th of June, and as you can see, I'm back on the Camino after 4 days resting. It's absolutely fantastic to be back on the trail again, heading towards Santiago. My feet are not doing too badly, but I do need to be cautious with them, especially my right foot. I don't want to cause any further damage. But I've made good progress so far. It's a little bit overcast today, but that's nice. It makes good walking conditions, and I estimate I'm about 5 kilometers from my overnight destination, Santiago Domingo. So hopefully I should be there within an hour or so. So yes, really good just to be out on the Camino. Yeah, I must admit I find the stopping, waiting not very good. I like to be on the move, and I just feel so much better in myself now that I'm making my way once more on the Camino, and just hoping and praying that I'll manage. In fact, if I turn the camera around, you can see my destination. It's just over the hill, so very close now. So this is where I'm heading, Santiago. No, Santo Domingo. This is the crypt of the cathedral in St. Domingo. Some interesting murals, and this is the grave of St. Domingo. But what caught my attention is this mural depicting the Magi. So this is a sight you don't normally see in a cathedral, a live chicken coop. And it might not be very clear from the video, but there is at least one, if not two chickens in there. In fact, you can just hear them. And the reason that is there is because of a legend associated with this town. So this town built up supporting pilgrims, started by Saint Dominic, hence its name. And there was a story that there was a German family on pilgrimage to Santiago, parents and a young man, and they stayed in an inn. And the young man was propositioned by a maiden, and he turned down her advances. And she was so upset by this that she put some of the silver from the church into his personal belongings and told the authorities, and they arrested him, found the silver. He was put on trial and he was executed in the centre of the town. He was hung to die. His parents were understandably devastated, but they continued on their pilgrimage to Santiago. And then sometime later, on their return home, they came through the town, and much to their surprise, they discovered that their son, who was still hanging, his body was still hanging there, was alive. And he told them that the saint had held him there and kept him alive. And the parents went and told the authorities, the magistrates. And when the magistrate heard this, he was actually frying 2 hens, and he said, "That young man is about as alive as these chickens are that I'm cooking." And suddenly the chickens jumped off the barbecue and started running around. And indeed, the young man was found alive. So that's the legend, and they've kept chickens in the cathedral ever since. And the chickens, or the cock and the rooster more accurately, feature on the coat of arms of Saint Dominic here in Spain. So a rather unusual legend story. One thing I didn't mention is that those chickens that are kept in the chicken coop in the cathedral apparently are descendants of the original 2 chickens that came back to life, or at least that's what they claim. Anyway, I'm now in the convent of San Francisco here in St. Domingo, inside the convent church of San Francisco. So I'm now leaving the La Rioja region and entering into the region of León and Castile. So this is a bit of a milestone on the trek to Santiago. So I'm now into the León and Castile region of Spain. I've left the Rioja region behind. So significant little milestone on the Camino. This region, which is a large region, contains 60% of Spain's cultural and historic artifacts, and containing some of Spain's most beautiful and historic cities. And I'll be travelling through hopefully 1 or 2 of these cities on my way to Santiago. So yeah, new region of Spain. And what is noticeable is that I'm leaving the mountains behind, and I'm going to be heading to a great plain area. It's quite high here. The plain that I'll be on in a couple of days' time is over 1,000 meters high, so over 3,000 feet, but it's a very flat plateau, and so that'll be where I'm entering. Some people apparently skip that part, some people find it the least interesting, but I'm looking forward to seeing what it's like. Apparently it's an area where there isn't very much shade, so we'll see what it's like. There are also a few very long stretches of walking to do. But today's walk is not too long, it's only 22 kilometres, so hopefully should reach my destination by midday. So this is my overnight stop. Rather lovely location with nothing around apart from wheat fields. It's day 14 of the Camino, and I'm now walking through the Meseta, which is this plain in northern Spain. It's about 800 to 1,000 meters high, and as you can see around me, it's actually rolling countryside here at the moment, so it's not completely flat. It is a very beautiful place, and I don't know if you can hear behind me, but the sound of the birdsong is just stunning. So just listen to this just for a moment. It really is absolutely gorgeous. So yeah, day 14 of the pilgrimage to Santiago, 248 miles left to Santiago itself. These are the ruins of the convent of San Anton from the 14th century. So I set off this morning at 4:40 AM, and after 33 kilometers of walking, I'm just about to reach my overnight destination. Some quite dramatic clouds in front of me. There've been a number of flashes of lightning and rumbles of thunder, but I suspect the storm is sort of moving away. But quite a dramatic scene. In this little hillside there are several caves dug into it, look a little bit like homes for hobbits, and they're called bodegas, and they were originally built to store wine and cheese and things like that, and each family would have their own little cave, and inside would be a wine press. So quite interesting, just a few of them here. Would make quite cool little dwellings. So I've just passed the official halfway point on the Camino from St. Jean to Santiago. So a little milestone on the route to Santiago and the Camino. So just after the halfway point on the Camino from St. Jean to Santiago, the Camino path actually divides into two, and you have an option. You can either stick to the main path, or you can divert and you can take the old Roman road. I've decided to take the latter, the old Roman road. It's a much quieter route. In fact, I seem to be the only person on this path at the moment. I haven't seen anyone for over 40 minutes, and there are far fewer places to stop, far fewer places to get refreshments, but I thought it would be a more interesting route to take. So at the moment I'm walking this path by myself. It feels like I've left everyone behind, and I will rejoin the main Camino path at the end of tomorrow. So that will be the plan. So at the moment I'm just heading to the only village on this path where hopefully they will have a place for me to stay for the night. But it's beautiful, but there isn't a huge amount of shade. I'll just show you where I am, turn the camera around. So I've just stepped off the path for a moment. Got these lovely little trees here. And yeah, at the moment it seems to be just me on this path. So there we go. I'm looking back the way I've come, no one in sight. So I understand that this path does actually join the official old Roman road, and you can see the cobbles of the old Roman road. So we'll see what comes, but at the moment it's just me by myself. It's still quite beautiful, especially these little trees around, and very hot. The forecast today is for it to hit a high of 33. It's not there yet, but it's still hot. So I'll be looking forward to getting to my overnight stay and having a shower and a bit of a rest. The Camino passes through many beautiful places, but for me one of the highlights was the city of León, particularly the cathedral, which for me was the most beautiful of all the cathedrals I visited. It might not have the grandeur and the splendour of Burgos Cathedral, but what set León Cathedral out for me was the stunning stained glass that floods the building with incredible light. León Cathedral, constructed between 1205 and 1301, is considered one of the finest cathedrals in the whole of Europe.
de plata y dentro guardan las reliquias
I really liked the city of León, but after a rest day there, it was time to continue the journey to Santiago. The route out of León and to the city of Astorga was by far the least interesting and least inspiring section of the whole Camino, travelling along busy roads and through uninspiring towns and villages. But one of the bonuses was finding an albergue with a swimming pool to cool off in after a long hot walk. In the town of Puerto de Orbiga, you encounter a very fine medieval bridge which crosses the Orbiga River. This now quiet river carried a much greater flow before a dam was constructed upriver in 1951. The Paso Horonzo Bridge is one of Spain's oldest Gothic spans, which crosses the river. Today, only 4 of its 19 arches are original, but it remains a very impressive sight. Hello, it's day 21 on the Camino, day 21 of walking. I'm heading to Astorga today, and this is the final day of walking in the Meseta. Already the landscape is starting to change, it's becoming a bit hillier, and we're going to be entering into the mountains in a day or two's time, so looking forward to that. You might notice that I've got a slightly different hat on today. My hat went missing yesterday in the hostel. Spent ages searching for it. I don't know what's happened. It's possible someone picked it up by mistake, or at least that's what I'm hoping happened. But upset that I've lost my own hat. I did like that hat, it was a good hat. But I've got this one instead. This had been left in the hostel 5 days earlier by someone else, and so they gave me this hat instead. So at least I've got something to keep the sun off me. Yeah, so day 21 of the Camino. The Meseta officially ends at the town of Astorga, which has a very fine cathedral with an impressive west front. Next to the cathedral, there is the Episcopal Palace, designed by the famous Catalonian architect Gaudi. So there you get a bit of a better picture of the Episcopal Palace and Astorga's Cathedral. Lovely little location. So just, you may get a better view of me not being in the way. And a pretty dramatic sky. So here we are inside the Episcopal Palace, designed by Gaudi. So this model gives you a good idea of what it looks like. There's the cathedral. It's got the most spectacular west front. Cloisters, the city walls, and then Gaudi's building, which I have to confess doesn't seem to really fit in with the architecture of the other buildings, but there you go. So here you get a good view of the city walls. So medieval walls but built on Roman foundations, and Gaudi's palace.
Yay. Yeah. Where are you from, Yay? it?
Hong Kong.
Hong Kong. Oh, it's beautiful, Hong Kong.
So I'm now walking in the mountains, beautiful landscape, much greener up here, slightly reminds me of home, and it's a rather nice little church here. But I just want to show you something that's really, I've noticed a lot on the Camino. So you'd think that along the Camino, ancient pilgrimage route, all the churches would be open, but it's locked. And there's been loads of churches like this all along the Camino. You'd think they'd be open, but they're not, which I find really quite sad. But anyway, it is in a beautiful location. One of the most famous landmarks on the Camino Frances route is the Cruz de Ferro, or Iron Cross. Around the base of this cross, a mound has been forming over many years. A legend says that when the Cathedral of Santiago de Compostela was being built, pilgrims were asked to contribute by bringing a stone. The tradition is now for pilgrims to bring a pebble or stone with them from their place of origin and place it at the foot of the cross, as a sign of laying down their burdens before Jesus. So I'm staying tonight in Ponferrada on the Camino route, and it is a municipal that's run by the church, and so in the municipal it also has this private chapel. So again, just to show that the albergues really do vary from place to place. Now this is a church-based one with a spectacular painted dome ceiling. So each albergue that you stay in is different. Some are municipals, so this one has 186 beds and it's donation only, so you come in and you decide how much you want to donate for the night. Some charge a fixed price, so last night I was staying in a hostel that charged €22 for the night, but that included dinner and breakfast, which was a great deal. Here they don't offer food, but there is a kitchen. So every municipal, every albergue that you stay in is different. So yeah, this is where I'm staying tonight. Well, in the hostel behind, but as I say, got this little chapel. So walking through some lovely countryside now, back into vineyard country, and if I pan the camera around, you can see some really lovely hills in the distance. They're over 1,000 meters, these hills, but lovely little spot. So it's Wednesday the 22nd of June 2022 and just leaving the town Villafranca, and most people today are going ahead about 28 kilometers. There's quite a steep climb that people are doing. Billy and I, however, decided to only go 17 kilometers to a place called Vega. I think we both probably think that maybe on hindsight we should have been going further, but we've already booked our accommodation. So yeah, most people that we've been travelling with are going further than us, so we're going to be out of sync with them for the next couple of days. But on the route to Vega there is an option. The path splits. You can follow the river and the road down in the valley, or there is an alternative route that takes you up the mountain. And because I'm not going so far today, and because I've got time, I thought I'd take the alternative route, which not many people take. A bit of a steep climb, but that's all good. So yeah, just show the camera, show the view. So the main path follows the valley down there, and I'm heading up there. So yeah, don't know how long it'll take, but as I've got the day, I thought it'd be interesting just to do this different route. And the plan is then tomorrow I have a 29 kilometer hike and quite a steep climb, over 1,000 meters to climb tomorrow, staying in a little place by myself, well, not with people I've been travelling with. And then the day after that, Friday, I will reach Sarria, where hopefully I will also meet up with other people I've been journeying with these last 2-3 weeks. And Sarria marks the last 100 kilometres to Santiago. So got really mixed feelings about that. The end of the Camino is getting closer, so my plan is to go beyond Santiago to Finisterre, so that's another 4 days I think hiking. I'm also giving very serious consideration to going down to Porto in Portugal, and possibly walking from Porto back to Santiago, which takes I think 10 to 12 days. That's assuming I have time though. But at the moment I'm just heading up the hill. It's quite cool today, overcast, but at the moment it's dry, so I hope it will remain that way for the duration of the day. So I thought I'd just pause to show the view. So if you turn the camera around, there's Villafranca down there in the distance. You can just make out the castle overlooking the town. Lovely little location. And then down there's the valley and the path that most people will be taking. And I'm just gently winding my way up the hill. You get a fantastic view from here down into the valley and down to the town, and I don't know if you can make it out, but if you look very carefully at the road you can see a line of peregrinos, pilgrims, making their way up the valley. But I get a bird's eye view from here and it's really beautiful. Very glad I took this route. Today is day 25 of walking the Camino for me. Obviously you can walk the Camino at your own pace. Some people walk 30 kilometers or more a day. Generally speaking, I think I've been averaging about 25 kilometers a day. Some days more, some days a little bit less, but 25 is pretty good, especially when the weather's hot, because you set off in the morning and after you've walked about 6 hours it can get very hot, and you know it's just not very nice walking in the heat of the day. At the moment though it's quite cool, so I think for me doing more than 25-30 kilometers actually wouldn't be a problem at all. But I thought it might be just a good opportunity to reflect on my Camino experience so far, and I think I would say that it has exceeded my expectations. It has been an amazing experience. Santiago is not that far away. I think it's maybe 7-8 days from here, based on the schedule I have. And I'll be honest, I don't want it to end. I've got so used to this life of getting up in the morning, walking, having breakfast, you know, just the whole Camino experience. But also you meet some just amazing people from all around the world, and because they're doing the Camino as well, there's something that links you together. You have this shared experience, and I don't think you can fully appreciate it or understand it unless you do the Camino yourself. And lots of people say that the Camino is addictive, and I've certainly met people who've done the Camino many times, and I can totally understand why it's addictive. In fact, I just want to keep on doing the Camino. So yeah, you meet loads of amazing people. People walk the Camino for all sorts of different reasons. Some are doing it for religious reasons. A lot of people seem to be doing it because they just want some space to process things, to maybe seek a new direction for their lives. The Camino itself, the Camino Frances route, which I can only comment on this one, is really beautiful. I'm really glad I've done it. The landscape changes, but of course you're walking 500 miles through northern Spain, so it shouldn't be a surprise. But there's something really special about travelling through an area on foot at a slow pace rather than in a car rushing past. So it's wonderful. There have been some hardships on the Camino. I mean, physical hardships. And you know, most people you'll speak to will have suffered some form of physical ailment, whether that be blisters or shin splints, or you know, other problems, back problems with carrying rucksacks and so forth. But that's part of the course. I think the thing I found the hardest though at the Camino is that you meet people, you make a connection with them, and then sometimes you don't see them again for maybe days, or maybe you don't see them again at all because everyone's on a different schedule, and that's really hard. So you know, I've met people, I've connected with them, and yet they've sort of either gone ahead of me or I've gone ahead of them, and I don't know if I'll meet with them again. And that's one of the things I found really challenging about the Camino. And it's a lot of new meetings, you meet new people each day, but it's also lots of saying goodbye to people, and you don't know if you're going to see them again or not. So that actually for me has been like the hardest thing of the Camino. But the actual routine of the Camino, getting up each day, walking, I've loved it. And I think for me, as I think about going home, you know, I'm just thinking, well, what's life going to be like when I go home? You learn to live very simply on the Camino. You carry everything with you, everything that I need in my rucksack. I've sent quite a lot of stuff home to lighten my bag, and yeah, you just learn to live simply, and it's really liberating. The other thing is, sometimes on this Camino I've pre-booked accommodation, and sometimes I haven't. Now, particularly as I head towards Syria in the final 100 kilometres, I think pre-booking may be important, may be necessary, because it's very busy. But actually there's a real freedom in not having to book accommodation. So, you know, at the moment I've booked my next 2 nights accommodation, and if I'm honest, I prefer, or I wish I hadn't done that, because I feel I'm tied down to that now. Whereas just to be able to walk and then decide where you're going to stop, dependent on the weather, dependent on how you're feeling, dependent on other people, there's a real freedom in that. It's really liberating. So I would say if you can do the Camino without pre-booking, that can be really great. Also, the issue when you book the Camino, or you pre-book, is it does tie you down, and you just don't know how you're going to be. You know, one day you might feel physically fine and you might be able to go over 30 kilometers. The next day you might struggle to do 10 kilometers. You just don't know. But as I say, I've done a mixture of not booking, and pre-booking, and so far I've managed to find accommodation. There's one day where it looked like we were going to struggle and I might have to go on to the next village, but it was okay in the end. So yeah, for me the Camino experience has been so enriching, much better than I thought. And spiritually, I've just, I can't say I've had any great revelation from God during doing the Camino, but you spend a lot of time just reflecting, observing nature as you walk, and that's been really wonderful, really beautiful. But also I've just enjoyed listening to my phone, listening to morning prayer on my phone, listening to worship songs, and just praying as I go along, and that for me has been really enriching. The one thing I would say I have found surprising, two things actually. First of all, many of the people doing the Camino, not many of them are doing it for religious reasons. In fact, I'd say the vast majority of them aren't doing it for religious reasons at all. So I did expect more people to be doing the Camino because of religious reasons. But also the other thing that surprised me is along the Camino, you're obviously passing lots of churches. A lot of these churches are locked. Not all of them, but many of them. In fact, I'd say the majority of them are. And also, the churches themselves are in a pretty dilapidated state, or some of them are. And I think that surprised me. I was expecting all the churches to be unlocked, particularly along the Camino route. And, bearing in mind, people are just following a very a clear path, clearly defined path. And you think that the churches on the path would be open. And I must admit, I found that sad, actually. I found it sad that lots of the churches are closed. And it's been sad to see the dilapidated state of the churches. But I suppose in one sense that reflects the challenge of the church here in Spain, the challenge of the church in Western Europe. And also I think maybe it's a reflection on the fact that if it weren't for the Camino, I think a lot of these places that we're walking through would really struggle. There's been a move away from the countryside in Spain, as there have been in many other countries, to the cities, and it's created massive problems for these villages. And actually, if it were not for the Camino, I think many of these villages in northern Spain would really struggle. So the Camino is bringing people in from all around the world, and this is a lifeline, an economic lifeline for these villages. So yeah, some of my reflections on the Camino. So I hope that's helpful. Sorry if it's a bit waffly, but it's just good to share. It's good to process some of my thoughts, particularly as I'm now walking along this rather beautiful stretch through these pine forests, and there's no one else here. And actually that's a real, it's lovely walking with people, it's lovely being part of a crowd, but actually it's nice as well to have times when you're by yourself and it's silent. And I'm particularly trying to maybe make most of that opportunity now before I hit Sarria in 2 days' time, because most people, vast majority of people, only do the last 100 kilometers of the Camino from Sarria to Santiago, because if you do that distance then you can get your pilgrim certificate at the end. So it's much busier. In fact, I'll be honest, I'm not really looking forward to it. I mean, it may not be as bad as I think it will be, but the idea of just having crowds and crowds of people really doesn't appeal to me. So getting out in the woods, being by myself, is wonderful. It's also one of the reasons why I'm planning to go to Finisterre, because Finisterre not only marks the end of the route, literally used to be believed to be the edge of the world, the end of the world, but also I'm expecting that stage from Santiago to Finisterre to be very different, maybe a bit more relaxed, a bit quieter. I've spoken to some people who are doing what I'm planning to do, walking it. Quite a lot of people are talking about busing it from Santiago, which you can do very easily and very cheaply. But for me, I just want to walk there. Then I can say I've walked right across northern Spain. and I don't know, something about getting to Finisterre that would mark for me a good ending to this pilgrimage, or certainly this stage of the pilgrimage. We'll see what happens after that. But yeah, if you're thinking about doing the Camino, if you're not sure about whether to do it or not, I would just say go ahead and do it. I've met people of all ages, young people, old people, fit people, not so fit people. I've met people in their 80s doing the Camino, you know. So if you're thinking about doing it, I'd say just do it, give it a go. Honestly, it's an amazing experience.
At Vega del Valcarce, we had one of our most enjoyable overnight stops. The host cooked dinner for us and then brought out homemade wine and spirits, and we danced the night away.
Quite the majestic view up here, isn't it?
So made it to Galicia, final province in Spain.
Cool.
Many thanks.
Sure thing.
There we go.
So just reading this pilgrim's prayer. Although I may have travelled all the roads, crossed mountains and valleys from east to west, if I have not discovered the freedom to be myself, I have arrived nowhere. Although I may have shared all of my possessions with people of other languages and cultures, made friends with pilgrims of 1,000 paths, or shared albergue with saints and princes, if I am not capable of forgiving my neighbour tomorrow, I have arrived nowhere. Although I may have carried my pack from beginning to end and waited for every pilgrim in need of encouragement, or given my bed to one who arrived later than I, given my bottle of water in exchange for nothing, if upon returning to my home and work I am not able to create brotherhood or to make happiness, peace and unity, I have arrived nowhere. Although I may have had food and water each day and enjoyed a roof and shower every night, or may have had my injuries well attended, if I have not discovered in all that the love of God, I have arrived nowhere. Although I may have seen all of the monuments and contemplated the best sunsets, although I may have learned a greeting in every language or tasted the clean water from every fountain, if I have not discovered who is the author of so much free beauty and so much peace, I have arrived nowhere. If from today I do not continue walking on your path, searching and living according to what I have learned, and from today I do not see in every person, friend or foe, a companion on the Camino, if from today I cannot recognize God, the God of Jesus of Nazareth, as the one God of my life, I have arrived nowhere. So we're now into Galicia, and the first place we come to has got these really interesting buildings with thatched roofs.
first thatch roof I've seen in Spain. I don't think it's particularly common here, but rather attractive little spot, even if we're in the cloud and can't see much. So today has been quite a wet day. It's rained on and off during the day. Got my raincoat on, feeling a little bit damp. So the Camino is not always sunshine and warmth. It can be quite wet. So looking forward to getting to my overnight accommodation. At the moment it feels like it can be back in Cumbria with both the scenery and the weather that we're having. That's a bit bedraggled.
The monastery in Samos is one of the most important and influential monasteries in the history of Spain. At its height, this monastic community controlled over 100 churches, 200 towns, and 300 other monasteries, as well as many farms, schools, foundries, and pharmacies. Its wealth was so well known that it was plundered several times by pirates. In the 10th century it was adopted by the Benedictine rule, and in the 12th century joined the Cluniac monastery network. Visits by royalty were common, and the monastery has long maintained a hospital for Santiago pilgrims. Although devastating fires decimated the structures in 1536 and 1951, many treasures remain. The building's 18th century main facade, with its integral bell towers, is considered a masterpiece of Baroque design. In order to receive a Compostela, a certificate to show that you have completed pilgrimage, you need to walk at least 100 kilometers to Santiago. This makes Sarria, which is 117 kilometers from the end of the Camino Frances route, a very popular starting off point, and makes this section of the Camino the busiest by far. It's particularly popular with parties of school children, where completing this part of the Camino seems to be a rite of passage. In the 1960s, the town of Portomarin was moved further up the hillside in order to make way for a reservoir project where the river was dammed and the old village flooded. This included moving the ancient church brick by brick to its new location. In Galicia, throughout the countryside, you see these structures, and it's used by the farmers to dry their wheat. so you don't see these elsewhere along the Camino route, just here in Galicia. So I've just stepped off the Camino route, just a short distance, few meters away, and there is this ancient fort or settlement. My understanding is that it is Celtic in origin. It's over 2,000 years old, and the Celts used to occupy this part of northwest Spain. In fact, this area of northwest Spain has quite a lot in common with Brittany and also with parts of the British Isles as well, because of that Celtic connection. So I thought I'd just have a little look in it. No one else is here, everyone else seems to have just stuck to the main path, so I've got the place to myself for the moment. Just gonna have a little walk in. Fantastic little spot. There's some other people over there. Pretty impressive. Just pan round. See people on the main path over there, so it's very close. And the clouds hanging low in the river valley. Galicia, which is the part of Spain I'm in at the moment, is very green and very beautiful.
Yes.
Beer grows on trees in Spain. So I'm walking through eucalyptus forests that are just outside Santiago, about 15 kilometers from the end of the Camino at Santiago, but just wanted to show you these beautiful eucalyptus forests that we've been walking through most of the day. Really lovely. Beautiful. So this is it. This is technically it's day 32 of walking, and it's only a short walk today. It's 10 kilometers into Santiago, so we've been walking about 40 minutes, so we've probably only got about 4 or 5 kilometers left to go. So yeah, significant day, short walk, very bittersweet day. For many people, Santiago marks the end of their Camino, so I'll be saying goodbye to quite a few people over the next day or two, which is really sad, especially as many of them I'll never see again, although a few I hope to keep in touch with. So yeah, heading into Santiago, and then I'm going to carry on to Muxia and then to Finisterre. So I've still got over 100 kilometers or so to go,
which I'm looking forward to, but I think it'll be a very different experience. So yeah, just heading now into the suburbs of Santiago. Billy walking ahead of me. Billy and I have been walking together over 3 weeks now, and joined by Maria, who's from Germany, who has joined the Camino from the northern route. So she's been walking the Camino north, and that joins this route, the Camino Frances, about a day or two ago. So she's sort of getting used to the busyness of this route compared to the north. So yeah, not much to look at the moment, just suburbs, but now entering into Santiago. And here we are. We've arrived. Santiago. Over 800 kilometers, 32 days of walking, and we've made it. Oops. So, Santiago. It's okay, I'm filming, I'm not taking photos.
Everybody coming in seems to be going down this way.
You know, he has Russian sisters. Siberia and
So I've just been told that this entrance here on the south side of the cathedral isn't normally open, but it's open because this is considered a holy year by the Catholic Church. And apparently if you walk through that entrance into the cathedral, your sins are forgiven. So I've walked through there at least once or twice, so I should all be good. I'm not entirely sure that's particularly scriptural, but there you go. So good morning everyone. It's about 7:20 in the morning. It's Tuesday the 5th of July and I'm leaving Santiago and I'm back on the Camino and I'm making my way to Finisterre. So I got into Santiago from the Camino Frances last Wednesday, had a couple of nights in Santiago, and then I went with a group of friends down to Porto for 3 nights, which was great, beautiful city. But I've come back to Santiago because for me the Camino doesn't end at Santiago, it ends at Finisterre. So lots of pilgrims, lots of peregrinos, they take the bus to Finisterre because of time, or maybe they feel their walk is over. But for me, I wanted to walk there, so I'm going first of all to Muxia. So it's going to be 3 days walk from here, then from Muxia to Finisterre, and I'll see what happens when I get to Finisterre. But the reason I'm going to Finisterre is that's where the path ends. There literally isn't any further to go. You're at the end of the world as it was once known. So yeah, it's great to be back on the Camino, and at the moment I'm the only person on this path. I've been walking on the Camino to Muxia and Finisterre for over 3.5 hours now, and it's a very different experience to walking on the Camino Frances. First of all, it's much quieter. There's hardly anyone on this route. I've probably seen 15 people maybe over the last 3.5 hours, and actually a few of those people have been walking the opposite direction, so all I can assume is that they've walked to Finisterre and they're now walking back to Santiago. But yeah, it's much quieter, and it feels strange having done the Camino Frances and having been so used to having lots of people around. To walk along this route and barely see anyone feels very odd indeed. I suspect probably is what the Camino Norte, the northern route, probably feels more like. It's lovely, it's beautiful, but it is a bit odd, a bit strange after the busyness of the Camino, and yeah, it feels different in a good way, but also maybe I feel a sense of melancholy, maybe reflecting on the people I've met on my journey, the conversations I've had, the experiences I've had, and realising that most of those people, if not all of those people now, have gone home, heading home, and I'm still on the road. Yeah, the other thing I've noticed is there's far fewer places to stop, so it took me 3 hours before I came to a cafe that was actually opened. Again, on the Camino Frances route, you don't have to walk long before you find a cafe. But anyway, I did find a nice cafe, had a nice omelette and coffee. So yeah, it's very different, it's beautiful, it's peaceful, it's quiet, but there aren't many people on this road. But in some ways I think that's maybe quite a nice way to finish the Camino, to spend a bit of time by myself, enjoying a bit of the solitude and the quiet after what has been a full and intense month or so on the Camino Frances route. It's Friday the 8th of July 2022 and I've just left Muxia or Muxia, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing it correctly, and I'm now walking to Finisterre, which is about 29 kilometers or so. But just wanted to show you this beautiful view that I'm walking past as I head out of Muxia. Look at that for a view. The official Camino path that goes from Muxia to Finisterre goes mostly inland, and I've got about halfway down that route and then discovered that there is actually a coastal path which I wish I'd known about earlier. So I've decided to come off the main path and take the coastal route, and I just want to show you the reason why, because this is the view that I've got. Look at this. So it's a longer route, but wow, it's beautiful. So it's worth taking this detour. How about this for a beach? Pretty amazing, isn't it? So I've made it to the 0 kilometers marker here in Finisterre after 846 kilometers of walking. So just show you the marker. So the end point of the Camino.
So I've made it to Cape Finisterre after 36 days of walking and travelling over 846 kilometres. And I have to say that it has been a real adventure, and I've loved every moment of it. There have been some challenging times along the way, but there have been many good times. And this for me was always the end point. It wasn't Santiago. I always wanted to come here because once you get here you can't go anywhere further. You can't go any further because it's surrounded by sea. And this place was believed by the Romans to be the end of the world. That's what Finisterre means. So you can't really go much further than this. So yeah, it's been an amazing journey, an amazing venture. But I think for me it was never the destination. It was always about getting there and the experiences I'd have on the way and the people I would meet. And I have to say that this Camino has exceeded all my expectations. In fact, Finisterre itself, if I'm honest, is a slight letdown for me. It's very beautiful, but at the top there's a little cafe, hotel, and they're blasting out music, and I've had to sort of come down quite a way to get away from that, because I actually just want to take in the beauty and take in the quiet. And for me, doing the Camino, one of the primary purposes, if not the primary purpose of doing the Camino, was to try and draw closer to God. And I'm very conscious of the fact that Pete Greig, who's a church leader in the UK, when he was a young man, came here, possibly sat or stood where I'm sat now, and as he looked out at the vast ocean in front of him, he was given a vision from God, and in that vision he saw a whole army of young people being raised up right across Europe. And that was a vision from God, and Pete has gone on to pioneer the 24/7 prayer movement, which has had a profound impact not only on the church across Europe but around the world as well. And I'm just very conscious of the fact that started here, or that vision came here. And I suppose in some ways I would love to have had a similar vision from God, but I haven't, or at least not yet. But I think I've learned quite a lot on the way. I think I've learned a lot about myself. I think I've learned that I'm able to do much more than I thought I would. I've learned about the importance of trying to learn simply, or live simply, sorry. We fill our lives with so much stuff, and actually we don't need that much stuff to be happy. And one of the beauties of the Camino is that you really just strip everything back to the bare essentials. But also I've learned to value friendship as well, and that's the great beauty of the Camino. You meet all sorts of people, many wonderful people, and it's those memories particularly that I will take away with me. I always wanted to do a pilgrimage in the traditional sense, and there's something wonderful about that routine of getting up each day and walking to a new destination. And I think I want to try and take back some of the lessons I've learnt on this Camino with me when I go back home, and not to just get swamped into the normal routine of life, to try and create more space, to learn to value friendship and people more, and being less distracted by technology, which is something I'm not very good at. But also I think needing to value relationships, particularly my own relationship with my family, particularly with Beata, and just to make time for that as well. But also to make more time for God, and that's always the big challenge as a Christian, to make time for God. And people do the Camino for all sorts of reasons. Some do it for religious reasons, many do it because they just want space to reflect and think, and that's the beauty of the Camino. You spend a lot of time just with your own thoughts, thinking about life. But I think everyone finds something special out of the Camino. So it has been a wonderful experience. It's been a really memorable experience. It's far exceeded all my expectations. And there's a sense of sadness that it's coming to an end. I said
a few days ago that I was feeling a bit melancholy, and I think the reason for that is I realised that the Camino is coming to an end. And although I'm sad about that, in some ways I think I'm ready to go home as well, and I'm looking forward to going home and seeing the family again. So yeah, these are my ramblings as I draw the Camino to an end. I've still got to get back to Santiago, still haven't decided how I'm going to do that, whether I'm going to catch a bus or walk, but yeah, this has been the Camino. And if you've been watching these videos, thank you so much, I really appreciate it.